What's up, guys? This is Hit You Good, your favorite all-American freedom-loving gamer, and today, Vince Zampella, along with IGN, have revealed some of the first hints of what we can expect from the next Battlefield experience. I tell you guys, we've been let down so much from the Battlefield series that ultimately, you know, you always hear people asking, oh, they have to do this right or the game's dead. Listen, the franchise died a while back, and I would probably say the franchise died during the beta of Battlefield 2042. And you might make the argument, well, Hitch, you know, it came back, they did a lot of good things, added in maps and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, you know, they did bring the Battlefield 2042 kind of back from the dead, but they didn't do that for the franchise, you know. No matter what you say, 2042 was not that classic Battlefield experience. The weapons were super beamy, even more casual than I ever would have liked, because the good thing about Battlefield back in the day was it had a super low skill floor, so you could come in and play and have fun, but an astronomically high skill ceiling to where you could get really good. And I think that's kind of the magic formula that Battlefield had. You know, in 2042, I found it way too easy to go a 2.0 KD, and it almost even got boring. But yeah, it just really felt fake. So hopefully, you know, we got some concept art here. Hopefully they end up doing this right, but they are going back to a modern setting, not a futuristic setting. There's a little difference there. And I hope that we get to see something as a little grittier. You know, in 2042, they tried to paint it up like everything's war-torn, but everything looked brand new when you go on the map. So I hope we get a different aesthetic. And so far, I mean, definitely looks like it. It looks like maybe a country in Italy, somewhere in Europe, obviously on the coast here. I would probably guess Italy, if any place at all. To be honest, some of this looks kind of AI generated, if you ask me. Some of these houses down here. So I'm not really sure. You know, I am hopeful, and the things that Vince Zampella talks about during his interview, you know, I've heard some good stuff here, and it all looks like it's trending in the right direction. But you know what? Battlefield devs have screwed us over so many times. I am highly encouraging you to not buy a preseason pass or pre-order the game. We need to stick around and see if this thing is going to be as good as they promise to be, because every single time Battlefield game comes out, it's the greatest thing ever. We just hear a lot of the same stuff. But today we do get into a few specifics, and the return to the modern era. Vince Zampella said, I mean, if you look back to the peak or pinnacle of Battlefield, it's that Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 era where everything was modern, and I think we have to get back to the core of what Battlefield is and do that amazingly well, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I think for me, it's that peak of Battlefieldness that is in that Battlefield 3 and 4 days, so I think it's nostalgic for players, for me, for the teams even. Those are kind of the heyday, although I'd say 1942 also, and I definitely agree with that. Now they're getting rid of the 128 players and probably going back to 64, which I think is a good idea. Just because you've got more players does not automatically mean that it's better gameplay. Yeah, they like to tout the player count around to investors to show, you know, oh, look at how much technology we have to handle this many players, but honestly, when they're doing that and they don't have the maps to back it up, it really hurts the gameplay, especially when they got to backtrack and pretty much revamp most of the maps that they came out with just to make them enjoyable to play. As you remember in 2042, the maps were so wide, so sparse that if you weren't in a vehicle or, you know, sniping, it really wasn't that fun. So that has to change. So he says, yeah, the 128 player, did it make it more fun? Like, doing the number for the sake of the number doesn't make any sense. We're testing everything around what's the most fun. So like you said, the maps, once they get to a certain scale, become different. It's a different play space. And I think you have to design around that. So we're designing something that is more akin to the previous Battlefields. He says, I'd rather have nice, dense, really nice, well-designed play spaces. Some of them are really good, and I can't wait for you to see some of them. So I'm looking forward to what might come out of Battlefield this time, but like I said, I'm not going to pre-order the game. The franchise, at the moment, is dead. Battlefield is no more, except for if you want to go back to the good old days and play Battlefield 4 or 1. Both of those communities are healthy and thriving because the current game space, the current atmosphere of the gaming market right now just doesn't really have anything that compelling. There's a few fun things out there, but nothing that's near as awesome as the golden era of COD or the golden era of Battlefield for that point. So one of the good things that we're finding out this time is specialists have been nixed. They're not going back to specialists. They are going to stick with the class system, which is one thing that made Battlefield 4 iconic, that made you kind of part of a team, and really made you feel like you were tailoring your loadout for a specific purpose rather than just going around, you know, running and gunning. Vince Zampella says, I wasn't there for 2042. I don't know what the rationale was, but for me, it's like the team tried something new. You have to applaud that effort. No, I do not applaud that effort, because they were getting the feedback they needed, and they were chasing the next big thing, which was being a hero shooter. He goes on. He says, not everybody liked it, but you got to try things. Now, if you're Vince Zampella, yeah, you got to say things about the former devs, but I'd rather not say anything at all. It didn't work. It didn't fit. Specialists will not be coming back. So classes are kind of at the core of Battlefield, and we're going back to that. Good stuff. He's careful to stress that Battlefield 2042 wasn't a failure of a game despite not doing well as he had hoped. He notes that the development team really spent a lot of time learning how to adapt it and getting things back. Still, he says EA doesn't want a repeat of the experience it had for 2042. We want to be good out of the gate. Now, that's going to be absolutely imperative, because even if you bring a game back to the Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 roots, if it's complete crap and unplayable at the beginning, a lot of people are going to tune out, and a lot of people are not going to come back, because this is your chance. It has to, if you're going to resurrect this series, it can't come back with a little whimper. It's got to take a big gasp and come roaring back to life, or it's just not going to work. One thing that did kind of encourage me was the fact that they're not trying to compete with Call of Duty. Now, I'll just read what he says. If you look at the best Battlefields that have outsold some Call of Duties, the other way around, back and forth. So I think absolutely it can, when he was asked about can it beat Call of Duty. To be honest, Call of Duty has always been on top when it comes to sales, because it is just a more accessible game. It's more in the culture of gaming. You know, it's more run and gun, and it's more accessible. There is a low skill floor, but there's also kind of there's a much lower skill ceiling in Call of Duty than there is in Battlefield. Battlefield's much more methodical. You have to really think about your gun and choose the right loadout for the right map for the right purpose. In Call of Duty, you kind of did whatever you wanted to and had fun with that, and that's okay. There's fun to be had that way. But the thing I love about Battlefield was the reasoning that you had to put behind your loadout and change how you play. Some guns, you know, you could open up full auto and do okay with. Some of them, most of them, you had to burst fire, and some of them you could only do micro bursts, while other ones you could do a regular burst. And just learning the weapon mechanics like that made the game worthwhile. But anyways, he says, is that what we're going for? Beating Call of Duty? He says, I mean, not directly, but always. We're not looking to take down Call of Duty. We're making something that's different. We're making something that's us. But yeah, it definitely has a possibility. And let me tell you, the more they rely on doing something different that's not Call of Duty, the better chance they have of overtaking Call of Duty. One thing that Arrowhead game developers got right, which was with Helldivers 2, if you go to their website, it says that a game for everyone is a game for no one. And ultimately, that's why Call of Duty is getting more and more watered down, becoming more generic. You know, they don't really innovate anymore. They just throw Nicki Minaj in there as a skin and call it a day, right? Just to try to get as many people on the platform as possible, even if it means they hop on and play for, you know, a maximum of 5 hours and never come back because, well, they got their skin from their favorite series that they liked. They played as that person, then really found out that the game wasn't that fun, especially with skill-based matchmaking. Speaking of skill-based matchmaking, Zampella doesn't mention anything about that. If Battlefield comes back and it doesn't have game servers, it's probably not going to be worth playing at all, because a shift towards skill-based matchmaking like Activision has done really just kind of shows the character behind the game and what they're going for. Are you trying to make a fun game where people can be rewarded for doing better and encouraging that? Or are you trying to manipulate your player base into playing longer, spending more on your on COD points or Battlefield, whatever, Battlefield points, I don't even know what they use anymore, But are you trying to milk the player base dry with microtransactions, or are you trying to rely on a fun experience that people are going to keep coming back to? They don't have to be manipulated into coming back to it. They come back to it because it's fun. So that's what I'm really waiting to see. Skill-based matchmaking, yes or no? Are they going to have it in, or are they not? But anyways, I like the fact that Zampella is working on this, and he's planning to take this in a completely different direction. He says we have a program that we're going to announce next year around getting more community in, which is really good because that's kind of the core of what we have to do. If you remember in Battlefield 4, they had the CTE. They even had the players come together and create their own map. That's the great thing about Battlefield 4 developers, where they were gamers too. They weren't marketing execs. So they got the players involved, and that's what we need more of. He said that's the core of what we have to do: get the community back on our side, get that trust back. When he says get that trust back, that is a little bit optimistic to me, because he understands that the trust has been lost. If you understand that and admit it, instead of trying to gloss over it with some PR speak, all right, you're gaining a little bit of credibility in my mind, but you don't get that credibility back until you make an awesome game. So he finishes up, says, so I think we're in a really good place. Is it challenging? Of course, but it wouldn't be fun if it wasn't. So leave your comments down below. Tell me, are you excited for the next Battlefield game? You're excited about some of the changes you're hearing? Will skill-based matchmaking make a difference to you? But in the meantime, while we're waiting, hop on Battlefield 4 or hop on Battlefield 1, because all it takes is EA Game Pass, or you can buy them for like $5 or $10, Go back and play some of the Golden Era CODs. Help us keep some of these old games alive during the meantime, and that way, if the next Battlefield game is complete crap, like it easily could be, well, guess what? We've got full servers on Battlefield 4, 1, and on the Plutonium servers with Call of Duty. But anyways, guys, thank y'all so much for watching all the way to the end. We are just about to get monetized on YouTube, so that's pretty fun. I can't wait to see what kind of impact it has on my channel. Anyways, guys, leave a like, subscribe, comment, share this with your friends. But other than that, y'all have a blessed week. Catch you good out.